My name is Jenna Talledha. I am a registered dietitian. I live in North Central Florida, kind of near Jacksonville, and and I work with women who are working on developing a better relationship with food and body, because we live in a world that is very focused on telling us how to eat and what our bodies are supposed to be like. And it ends up causing a number of different issues. So, my presentation today is to introduce you to what intuitive eating is. So my presentation is you didn't fail your diet, it failed you. So, what is a diet? It's very easy for people to kind of go right to, common types of commercial diets like Weight Watchers and Atkins and similar things like that. But really, a diet is anything that tries to tell you how you're supposed to eat or move and also promise weight loss. So, if there's anything that follows that type of definition, it is technically a diet. Yes, there is also the word diet that just typically means how one eats. But in in the US over here and many other places, there's a lot of focus on weight loss diets or eating in a certain type of way. It's a slightly different definition than just the regular narrative. But this could even be something that was provided by a trainer, a medical professional, an article, magazine, an influencer trying to tell you different things like that. Or it could even simply be created by you. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It could be just that, you say that you're not going to eat a certain type of thing, or that you're going to hold off eating until a certain time, or whatever the case might be. So a diet can be a broad thing. It doesn't just have to be a commercial kind of thing. Does this sound like you? When you are like doing anything similar to what I was just talking about, where you have low energy during the day, you have constant thoughts about food, even constant thoughts about your body as well. You might feel guilty or ashamed for eating something bad, or you might find yourself being good during the day or any sort of length of time, but then at some point it gets to that place where you just can't get satisfied with your food. This is what dieting is. And it's so easy because dieting is put up onto this pedestal that we're made to think that dieting is like supposed to be healthy, and trying to get to a certain number on the scale is going to be beneficial for our body. That's that narrative that is constantly driving through our conversations and things that we read or watch or whatever. But dieting, it actually ends up causing a lot of issues. This was some input that some clients had provided me. Why diets suck? Um, there's a lot of thought and decision fatigue with like picking out foods. You're provided with these options of things to eat. They have to follow a certain nutrition profile, certain calories or grams of something. Um, and you create a little short list of foods that you like, or you can deal with, while you're doing this. But then you find yourself getting into a rut of eating, the same things over and over and over again. um you might find yourself buying like a whole new kitchen full of food that your family's probably not going to eat, or you're going to sit there and fight with them, or feel like you have to make a bunch of separate meals just for them, and then you have to eat something different. The You might end up putting all of this effort and thought. It takes so much energy and time and process to like uh shop for our food, plan for our meals, weigh, measure, track everything. And all this time you're like trying to like watch the scale. The scale might not be cooperating as you're hoping it would. Um, or you might not necessarily be getting the praise, from people you're trying to work with to help you with this. And even down the road, after you end up, stopping the diet for whatever reason, then the weight might end up coming back. And then you blame yourself for it because you think you did something wrong. But the fact is that there's a lot of biological stuff that's happening there that it's really not your fault. But diet culture tends to make us feel like it's our fault that we're constantly supposed to be eating in this particular type of way. So you might find yourself tracking everything or having that internal food police voice or external. So, like, if there's somebody out there trying to like shame you for eating a certain way, or even if it's your own internal dialogue with your inner critic that sits there and shames you and makes you feel awful for having something. um, you might find yourself rebelling against it. So you might have good intentions in the beginning, and then eventually, at some point, you're like, "Whatever. I really just want something to eat. I'm starving right now, and this is what I have, so I'm going to eat it." Um, and then, of course, you deal with all of the physical stuff like low energy, feeling cranky, having headaches, and all of that other stuff that comes with it. And then, like I said before, usually the weight comes back and it tends to bring friends with it. So, meaning like you end up regaining the weight back or more. So, why diets don't work? For one thing, no one knows what your body needs except for you. I couldn't even sit here as a dietitian. I could give you some suggestions of like ways of putting some things together or helping you with like getting some different types of variety in. But if I were to sit here and tell you that you could only have this much of something, you might be more hungry than that. You might be less hungry than that. You might not like the food. You might not have access to the food. And so that's one big thing of why somebody trying to tell you how to do that doesn't work long term. You might do it for a little bit, but eventually it doesn't work out and your body starts screaming after that. There's a sketchy history as well of how ideal weight was determined. Um, there's a lot of racism, a lot of misogyny, and a lot of patriarchy mixed in, as well as a lot of capitalism as well. And the entire thing is just the entire diet industry is a $90 billion industry that works to make money off of our insecurities. So they want the the meal plan or the diet or the restriction or the rules, they want that to not work out. They want you to come back to them and say, "Oh, please take my money again," and all of that because they like having repeat customers. So, and it's not your fault if you couldn't stick with the diet or the weight didn't come or stay off like you wanted. But diet culture makes you feel like it is supposed to be your fault, but it's really not. That's just not how our bodies are designed to work. So, this is a cycle that people can get into very easily. Starting here at the restriction and the food rule, some sort of food or way of eating is put up onto a pedestal and given a lot more power than it deserves. We start making rules about that food. And it could be if we're allowed to have that kind of food, how much of it we're allowed to have, how often we can have it. And then the deprivation starts building up. And it could be over time or it could be really short. It could be a matter of hours or a day or so. And then you get to this place where you just can't take it anymore. and you just want to try to get some food into you as soon as possible. So you might get to a place of uncomfortable fullness, or you might have this like eating quickly or hiding while you eat, and then you feel like you're out of control with it. And then the guilt and the shame happen because you didn't follow whatever those rules were. And then the cycle continues. And I find that the majority of the time, my clients really do identify with this cycle. I identify with this cycle as well before I started with intuitive eating. And then this cycle just is vicious and it keeps going and going and going. And where most people feel like the issue is over here that needs attention, that it's the uncomfortable fullness or the urgency to eat, and we just need more control, chances are it's really more of the food rules and the pedestal that we've put that food onto. Because if those things didn't exist, chances are neither would the rest of the cycle. And it might sound really scary for me to share this with you. Like, oh my God, that means like everything is off limits and I'm, gonna go nuts with it. It could show up that way at first, but it's not because you don't have any control or willpower or whatever. It's usually because we haven't had the food forever, or we're afraid that we're never going to get it again next. And so we get that urgency. And once we can build up that trust that you always have access to that food, you always can eat to a place of satisfaction, then that trust builds up and that cycle starts breaking down. And it makes food neutral and not as controlling. And so this is what intuitive eating is about, or at least a segment of intuitive eating with the restriction binge cycle. Intuitive eating is an evidence based approach. It's backed by lots of quality studies over the years. And it's about helping people reconnect back to their bodies and rebuild the trust that they have to know how to eat, because we are born with that ability. It's just that our well-meaning caregivers and our medical community and society as a whole, they teach us that we can't trust it. And so they give us all of these rules and things like that about how we're supposed to eat, and it just takes us further and further away from our body. Meanwhile, the whole time our body is sitting there screaming at us, saying, "I'm starving." And so it feels like you're doing something wrong because you're not following the rules, but your body's trying to tell you something too. So intuitive eating is about bringing you back to that. So it's been shown that it helps improve body image, satisfaction with food, helping your body feel and work well no matter what your size is. And it's very helpful for people who are recovering from eating disorders or yo-yo dieting or emotional eating, and things like that. And it's a weight inclusive approach. So it's not a focus on the scale, because the scale actually tells you nothing about what's happening inside of your body. But it's more about helping you feel good about your body and um, feeling safe and at ease in your body, rather than sitting there and coming from this place of body hatred and shaming. So these are the intuitive eating principles. Um, so there's 10 different principles here. We have reject the diet mentality, learning how to recognize your cues like your hunger, your fullness, your satisfaction. We talk about changing that food police into something more curious and compassionate rather than shaming and punishing. We also talk about body appreciation, which is and if you've heard anything about body positivity or things like that online, there's a lot of folks that can get that wrong. It's not necessarily about automatically thinking that your body is your best friend or that you love it implicitly or whatever, because if you've been hating your body for any length of time, that can really feel like a very far goal. So instead, what I work on with people is learning how to hate your body a little bit less and coming to a place of neutrality where you can treat that with kindness and compassion rather than restriction and punishment. Um, we also talk about joyful movement, which is changing our relationship with exercise, because exercise does tend to be very rules and rigidity based and metrics and pushing your body to levels that don't always feel good or doing activities that you really don't like. Instead, what we do is we focus on moving your bodies in ways that feel good and also are ways that you have fun. So, my personal way is swing dancing. I love swing dancing. When I go, it's all about the music and my partner and having a great time. I really could give two craps about calories or things of that sort. I just want to go and have fun, you know. So that's joyful movement. And then we also talk about gentle nutrition, which is what can we add to what you're already doing to give you some variety and help your body work and feel well, but not necessarily at the expense of other things. So, just kind of coming at this from a roundabout direction and giving you that variety. Um, so just to wrap up here, I am working with a company called Berry Street. It's a telehealth nutrition platform. It's really cool because most people who have commercial insurance have a zero out of pocket preventative nutrition benefit. It depends on how many appointments the insurance gives you, but I've had some that have unlimited appointments with zero out of pocket. Some of them might only have three. It just depends. So and then we also have the ability to request more appointments if need be. So and if that doesn't really work for one reason or another, like maybe you're just not in a state that I'm licensed in, um we can also go and do it like in a coaching kind of setting. So it is, we can work it out however it needs to be. So this is my contact information. If you'd like to set up an appointment with me, feel free to click on this QR code here. Um, and I'll also share it in the group so you guys can see that there. And so, just as a conclusion, diets are designed to fail. Our bodies are good bodies, no matter their size, and you are the expert of your own body. You can be healthy without food rules, rigidity, and shaming. And actually, it's been shown with lots of studies that this type of like the rules, rigidity, and shaming actually make your health actually poor. It can lead to more chronic conditions and things like that. Um, Rather than with more of an open mind about eating and things like that. And intuitive eating can help you feel more at ease in your body. So that's my presentation. If you guys have any questions, I'm not sure how much time we have left. I think I started at 2:06. So I might have 5 minutes of questions if you guys would like.
Yep. You have about 4.5 minutes. So you are almost exactly on time. Perfect.
Oh, wow. Good. I was kind of worried about that. So that worked out fine. And does
Perfection.
anybody have any thoughts or questions or things that they'd like to ask? Don't all talk at once.
is because if somebody's trying to lose weight, that the fat molecules in our body actually englobe the toxins in our body and protect our organs. And if we don't detox, if we, try to lose weight either by eating less or exercising more, but we're not getting rid of the toxins in our body, then people don't feel that well. And so it's always been my philosophy that when I eat, I want to eat a detoxifying, lots of fruits and vegetables, because I love fruits and vegetables, and that's what detoxes us. And I'm just wondering if you have anything, like when you work with people, do you, you know, you talk about intuitive eating, but I'm also familiar with metabolic reprogramming, so that when people are used to eating junk food, processed food, highly processed food, junk food, that's what their body wants. And when you flood your anyway,
Yeah,
I'll stop talking because you obviously have a different philosophy, and I want to hear what you have to say.
okay. Well, I appreciate your input and things like that. And um, one of the important things that we talk about with intuitive eating is food neutrality. And there is no such thing as a good or bad food. Yes, there are foods that have certain nutrition profiles to them, and some of them, might be delicious and things of that sort. But if we sit there and we put those into good or bad categories, or we put them into healthy or not healthy categories, it ends up sending us on that restriction binge cycle. And, for the people that I've worked with over my time as a dietitian, people do generally want to get in nourishing foods. Yes, they also have things that are, snacks and things like that. But it's the guilt that we have around that food that actually ends up contributing to more anxiety and more fears around it, and that whole part about, like, oh, I need to stop eating this, or I can only have this and so much. It just triggers that whole, like, concept around, like, putting that food up onto a pedestal and things of that sort, as well as toxins and things like that. We do we do have kidneys and the liver that help with toxin removal, and fruits and vegetables are amazing, and they do help in lots of different ways with fiber and vitamins and things of that sort. Those are all wonderful and definitely worthwhile. But our bodies need more than those. Our bodies need all different kinds of foods. And just to, like, reiterate really quick, because I know I'm low on time now. We eat for so many different reasons, and people tend to get into this blinders. I used to do it. I had an eating disorder where I specifically only ate a certain type of nutrition profile, and I wouldn't let myself have anything else. But one of the things I learned is that we eat for so many different reasons: connection, celebration, because it's available, because it's delicious, because it helps make memories, and so many other reasons that we could sit and talk about for hours. Um, and if we sit there and we put those blinders on and say, oh, this is a bad food, we can't have this, this is going to be detrimental to our lives, um, then we're going to forget all of the places where food has a role in our life, and it can really take away from that. During my eating disorder, I didn't let myself have connections with other people at restaurants or at any sort of events that included food, because I was so scared that it wasn't going to fall into whatever my rules were. And it really affected my mental health, as well, because of that. And I'm going over my time, so I'm going to stop talking right now, but we could definitely make a whole nother discussion out of this. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your presentation.